So Liverpool go down to the second Premier League defeat of the season, losing 3-1 at Arsenal today. And you have to say it feels like a massive missed opportunity for Jurgen Klopp's side. Coming into this, they knew that it would be 8 points clear of the Gunners and also City, albeit with games in hand. If they came away with a win in this one, you really would have felt that it would have pushed Mikel Arteta's side out of the title race completely. But as it is, a win for them moves them within 2 points of Liverpool at the summit, and you have to say it's back to being really a three-horse title race now, and Liverpool have got to contend with not only Manchester City but now a reinvigorated Arsenal. So really, really disappointing on that front. But I have to say, there are defeats and there are defeats. I think, you come away from this one and it is disappointing, as I say, but it's also Liverpool's second defeat of the Premier League season. It's important to focus on that. And sometimes also, you've got to really give credit to the opposition, and I think it's worth doing in this instance. Look, Arsenal knew they couldn't afford to lose this game, and they probably desperately needed to win it. And I think that desperation showed in the performance. They were really physical. They were first to every ball. They really wanted it. And of course, it really helps when you have the crowd on your side. And sometimes you really got to sort of acknowledge that you're coming up against a side that probably at worst are the third best team in the Premier League, playing on their own patch with so much to play for. Know this is a crucial game, and yeah, they're going to press the life out of you. They're going to make it really difficult for you. You can't just roll up and win at every stadium. Sometimes you're going to have difficult afternoons like this, and I think you've got to, as I say, give credit to Arsenal for the performance. They really strangled Liverpool at times in this game and put everything on the line really to get over the line in this one, and Liverpool just didn't have an answer for it. We've seen so many times in games this season at difficult places as well that they have found an answer. You think back to Manchester City, they score a late equaliser there. They've already beaten Arsenal away in the FA Cup this season, albeit having to weather a bit of a storm in that game. But unfortunately this time around, they just didn't find the answers there, and that's going to happen from time to time. So I don't think Liverpool are going to come away from it overly disappointed. Yes, they wish they would have played better, and they'll be disappointed in that element, and obviously would love to be 8 points clear in the title race at the moment. But I still think, like I say, you've got to acknowledge that it's at Arsenal. It's going to be difficult at times, and Arsenal fully capitalised on it. And I think one thing that Liverpool might want to focus on as well is that even with Arsenal really being on top of them and being at home for periods in this game, it still took a massive error, an uncharacteristic error really to decide the game, if you ask me. I mean, yes, Liverpool hadn't performed particularly well up to the 67th minute, but I think they were level. They were showing some element of control. It wasn't like Arsenal were completely carving them apart time and time again. And Liverpool looked like, if anything, if they could have held out past that 67th minute, I think Arsenal would have started to worry a little bit, would have panicked, would have started maybe making mistakes and opening up a little bit more, and that really would have suited Liverpool. Unfortunately, what you end up getting is Alisson Becker and Virgil van Dijk, two of the best players in their position in the world, falling into each other, and all of a sudden there's an open goal to tap it into, and the game is Arsenal's from there. But as I say, I think Liverpool, it looks, Arsenal's performance looks like they were completely dominant. And if you look at the XG scores, I think they've got about 3.5 to Liverpool's 0.5 or there or thereabouts by most standards. And I think that makes it look like it was completely dominant. But you actually examine Arsenal's XG, and so much of it is made up by the open goal that Martinelli gets when he scores. An early Saka chance in a period when Arsenal were definitely on top. They were carving Liverpool apart in that first 15 minutes or so, and then the other big part of it is Saka's goal, which he gets a bit of luck involved. You have to say, Alisson, a great save from Havertz, and it falls quite fortuitously into Saka's path. So those three chances really make up a big chunk of their XG and maybe make it look a little bit more like Arsenal were completely dominant and carving out chances at will. And it wasn't that sort of game. As I say, I'd have really, really loved to see how the game might have played out if Martinelli hadn't been handed that goal. Liverpool had every chance of going on from there and win it. Unfortunately, we'll never know now, will we? I think another takeaway Klopp might have from this game as well, I want to touch on before I go into the players, is sort of his tactical approach. And I think you look at how Cody Gakpo played in particular, and I think he said before the match that was a tactical decision ahead of Darwin Nunez. That foot injury that he picked up wasn't anything to do with it, and I think if the manager was being truthful there and it actually was a tactical decision, then I think he'll feel a little bit of regret about that, because I think Gakpo didn't do enough for me. And also Nunez, we've seen in recent weeks how important his threat is to Liverpool and his ability to run in behind, and I think in a match where Arsenal was so reliant on pressing and trying to squeeze the life out of Liverpool, it would have made such a difference to have an easy ball in behind and an ability to hit a long ball in behind and really, not allow Arsenal to step up as much as they want. And that threat in behind would have been in the backs of the minds of the defenders and also Arsenal as a whole, really. And I think that could have really changed the game. So I would say Klopp will maybe look back on that and think that's a decision that he got wrong, and then the rest of it, he'll maybe feel that Liverpool were a little bit unlucky in moments and obviously showed uncharacteristic poor play in moments from players who you absolutely wouldn't expect it from. Now, the main job now is to focus on the positives that I've said and learn from the negatives. And also, Liverpool have been on an extremely long unbeaten run. The last league defeat that they had was at Tottenham, and even that was a bit of a shambles to do with the referee, let's be honest. So the key is how do you respond to this setback? Do you allow Arsenal to get back into the title race, or do you say, look, it's still in our hands? Liverpool know if they win every game between now and the end of the season that they will be champions. So that's enough of a carrot to get yourself on another lengthy unbeaten run, and they've got Burnley next, a game that looks very winnable. So Liverpool have just got to focus on getting back on the horse and getting another unbeaten run going if they can, and if they do that, then they'll give themselves a very, very good chance of lifting the Premier League in May. And this, just looking back on this, is just a bit of a minor setback on the way. So we'll have to see how that pans out. And I'm going to go through the players now as usual, and I'll of course start with the goalkeeper, Alisson Becker. And wow, I mean, I've spent most of these videos this season saying, he's unbelievable, he never lets his level drop, or he's basically been a passenger in this game and has had very little to do. And unfortunately, this game he was neither of those things. He had his poorest game in a while, really. The mistake he makes around Virgil van Dijk, I think around the goal that makes it 2-1, the Martinelli goal, I think Virgil van Dijk deserves an equal level of blame around that one. That's poor communication. Why is he letting the ball bounce? But Alisson will be fuming that he didn't just clear it. He leaves an open goal there ready for Martinelli to tap into, and it's just a unbelievably uncharacteristic moment from him. You're just not used to him making those sorts of mistakes. A real shocker, really. And I also think, the goal for 3-1 as well, I think the game's up by then. Liverpool are down to 10 men, aren't they? But I still think he'll look back on that and have some regrets to get nutmegged at your near post. Again, we never see that from Alisson. That's a really disappointing goal to concede from his perspective, and not the sort we're used to. So absolutely a day to forget for him, and we do not say that very often. So I think you can just write that off as a bad day at the office for him. It's just unfortunate that he's come in such a big game. But yeah, a poor performance from Alisson Becker today, and that's quite rare words from me or anyone who watches Liverpool, really. Now, in front of him in the defence, I'll start with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Of course, would have been an interesting selection decision if Conor Bradley hadn't had that awful news. And unfortunately, we send him all our best. It's tragic news, really. It's happened with his family and his father. Gutted to hear that. But it would have been interesting with the way Conor Bradley was playing, whether this selection decision would have gone in Trent's favour for this game, because Conor Bradley was playing out of his skin, wasn't he? Playing marvellously well. So it was a difficult one, but in the end, circumstances made that decision for the manager. So we saw Trent Alexander-Arnold come in, and to be honest, I thought not a fantastic performance from him. Again, not absolutely poor, but I thought Martinelli getting the better of him from time to time. That's going to happen, to any fullback. Sometimes if he gets you in a one-on-one situation, he's got the pace to go on the outside, and there's not really a lot you can do about it. He's one of the quickest players in the Premier League, so that's difficult. And that, I thought Trent sort of managed that well in terms of not a lot came from it, but I just thought his influence really on the game was quite poor, really, for him. We used to him being such an influential figure for Liverpool, but he creates one chance, which is, by the way, with a great ball in behind for Gakpo at a moment of sheer quality. But I just didn't think he was as dominant in possession, and Arsenal again, deserve credit for that. They were pressing him really well. They were making it hard for Liverpool to play out. But I thought he really looked off the pace, and 1 out of 4 ground duels won, not a fantastic number either. So he comes off around the hour mark, and Jurgen says after the match that that's to do with match fitness, and you could sort of see that in his performance, really. I didn't think he was absolutely at the races, but you hope that he can get back there as soon as possible, because obviously there's some important games coming back up, and he's back from injury now, and Liverpool need him to get back to that influential best where he was just before he picked up his injury, because he was absolutely massive prior to this, wasn't he? So hopefully can get back there quickly now. Alongside him in defence, Ibrahim Konate. Let's start with the positive, actually. 6 out of 6 aerial duels won. He's so good in the air, isn't he? And Arsenal didn't find a way out through that. Havertz is a big guy, isn't he? So that could have been a real outlet for Arsenal. But actually, Konate shut that down really well. But where I think he did have problems was when he was being dragged out to the left, or the Arsenal left, the Liverpool right, by Trent Alexander-Arnold being up the pitch, and he was getting left in one-on-one situations with Martinelli, and I thought Martinelli had a great game, and I think Konate struggled in some of those moments, didn't look comfortable out there. That was a big part of why Konate had a good game. And then for the goal for 1-0, he's the man who's too deep. He allows Havertz to run in. He keeps him onside. That's really disappointing not to be stepping up in that situation. I think, again, a big part of that is he's got the fear of Martinelli's pacing behind him, so he's dropping back a level. And then all of a sudden Havertz has got a free run on goal, and although he doesn't finish it off, Saka does in the end. So that's a poor moment for Konate. And I think, again, you can have a bad day at the office, but I think the moment in his performance that will most annoy the manager, and I think that most annoy fans really, was to pick up a second yellow late in the game. Liverpool are already losing. Even in that moment, Arsenal don't have a break on that looks likely to end in a goal, or he's not in one-on-one, so he doesn't need to give the foul away. So to pick up a yellow card in that way, I think is just sloppy. It's a rashness that we don't tend to see from Konate, and he's going to serve a one-match ban off the back of that, which just sort of adds insult to injury in terms of you've lost this game and now you lose a key player for your next match. I thought it was a really poor decision for Konate, and as I say, not a great game from him overall. But again, it's so true of so many of these players. They've been marvellous this season, but so I don't want to be too harsh on them. But I thought not a good day at the office for him. Alongside him, Virgil van Dijk already spoke about the goal for 2-1. Again, much like Alisson, completely uncharacteristic, and we don't expect that from him. But it's so poor, and it's such a big moment in the game. He absolutely cops for it in his post-match interview and mentions, look, he takes all the blame for it, and it's one of those moments. But it really is the decisive moment in the game, and it's difficult to get away from that. Like Konate, we're looking for positive. 6 out of 6 aerial duels won as well. Again, dealt with Havertz. He didn't really give them much threat, but he will just be looking back on that moment, won't he, around the second Arsenal goal with such disappointment, and rightly so, really. Now, I'll just finish off the defence now, talk about Joe Gomez. I thought it was the right decision to pick him on that left-hand side, because I thought the way he dealt with Saka in the FA Cup game, really, he was really impressive, and I thought it'd give him another go to repeat that performance, but unfortunately, didn't quite happen for him in the same way it didn't for a lot of these players today. 0 out of 3 ground duels won today. That's really low for him. The numbers he's been putting up recently, and I thought a couple of moments where he got boxed in possession as well and looked weak on his left foot, and that. You can see why Jurgen Klopp wanted to put Andy Robertson on late on to give Liverpool that outlet on the left-hand side to try and get Liverpool to break out that press, because I think Gomez maybe struggled a little bit with that. But again, he's been marvellous at left-back, hasn't he, all season, and it's a shame really that everyone around him has a poor game and he has a poor game today, and those things can happen really, so don't want to judge him too harshly for that. Now, moving to midfield now, and I thought I'll start with the guy who I thought was my Liverpool man of the match, actually, Alexis McAllister. There's been question marks over him as a number 6, haven't there? But I thought, he showed again against a very good midfield that actually did dominate Liverpool in that area, no getting away from it. I thought he was very, very good. He was the standout performer by a million miles for Liverpool in that position. 88% passing accuracy, 9 out of 11 ground duels won, 2 out of 3 aerial duels won. So he won all his battles in the middle. He used the ball really well. It's just unfortunate that nobody else seemed to really reach his level. And I thought he played really, really well. And as I say, if anyone had got near that sort of level of performance, then Liverpool would have been coming away with a much better result today. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, because alongside him, what was happening was not fantastic. Now, one of those is Curtis Jones, been the model of consistency this season, but 1 out of 4 ground duels won is very low for him. Consistently wins his duels when he's in that central position. It just didn't happen for him today. 80% passing accuracy. Now, I always mention his passing accuracy on these videos. It's always, generally in the 90s. He's so reliable on the ball, but he completes 80% today. That just shows you that Arsenal's pressing was excellent, but Liverpool didn't really have an answer for it in possession. No way of getting out. McAllister did a decent job in there, but Jones was not as helpful as you would have hoped, really, in terms of retaining possession and taking the sting out of it. So that's unfortunate, and probably a big part of why Liverpool weren't in control in that central area. And alongside him, Ryan Gravenberch, a kind of quiet performance. He wins 3 out of 6 ground duels, which is not bad. Winning half your ground duels, you probably take that out of any match. And he completes 12 out of 14 passes, 86%, which is, again, his decent ratio. But, as I said, Jones is attempting 45 passes alongside him. The fact that Gravenberch is only attempting 14 kind of shows you that he was he's completing at a high rate, but he was a peripheral figure, didn't really massively get involved. There was a couple of moments where he showed some great touches and moved the ball on really smartly, but you want to see him demand the ball a little more and be more dominant in that position. I thought that whole right-hand side actually kind of didn't work in the absence of Dominic Szoboszlai. He's got a nice relationship with Trent Alexander-Arnold we've seen in the past, and it just was non-existent today, and that was a big part of why Liverpool struggled. So, Gravenberch, he didn't give the ball away too much. He wasn't, but like I say, I want him to be more involved, and he is capable of doing that. But there's no getting away from the fact that he's still developing at the moment, still learning, still getting used to things, and that Szoboszlai was a huge miss for Liverpool, wasn't he? So that it's hard to sort of forget that he is so influential and Liverpool need him. So yeah, like I say, don't want to be too harsh on Gravenberch, but Szoboszlai was definitely missed in that position today. Now I move into the front line and maybe start with Jota. I've spoken in the past actually about how, in away games, I think sometimes if Liverpool aren't dominant on the ball, it doesn't really suit Jota because he doesn't see a lot of it. He's so much better when Liverpool are camped around the opposition box and he's making little darts in behind or taking a touch where he can get a shot off on either foot because we know he's deadly either side. The fact he gets no shots away today sort of really sums it up, his performance. He just couldn't get involved in dangerous areas. And again, that can happen in away games for him. He's such a reliable forward, but if Liverpool don't get him in the areas and they don't get the ball in the dangerous areas, he's not going to make it happen for himself. He's not quite a Darwin Nunez type. So he really, really suffered for the fact that Liverpool weren't dominant in this game and really had a really quiet game. Fortunately, some games coming up where I expect Liverpool to have more of the ball, so I'm sure we'll see better of him, but it just didn't happen for him today. On the other wing, another positive I thought, Luis Diaz. I want to talk about his persistence around the equaliser. To keep working there, to keep running. I thought sort of summed him up as a player. He also has 3 shots, which is more than any Liverpool forward today. And might actually be more than any Liverpool player. Which again, getting into dangerous positions, he creates a chance. He also gets thrown into right back late in the game, which I think sums him up. He's such a hard worker, isn't he? And there've been doubts over him this season when he's been out of form. But I thought even in a tough game today, he kept showing for the ball. He kept working, kept trying to make sure things weren't happening down his side for Arsenal. Always grafts. And you can see why Jurgen Klopp loves him, because he just works his socks off. And I think we saw that again today. So don't be too critical of him, because I thought, that work rate he always provides that as a basic, really, and from there, okay, things might not happen for you, but to get still 3 shots away and create a chance, probably did more than any of the other forwards, so probably deserves some praise for that. Now, finish off with Cody Gakpo, and I've talked about the fact that I thought, maybe Jurgen Klopp got that wrong, that decision with going with Gakpo over Nunez, because Liverpool really lacked that threat in behind. But I also thought, even accounting for the fact that Gakpo maybe is not a great runner in behind, I still thought, there are elements of his game that could have been better. It wasn't just a tactical decision that sort of undermined him. I thought he didn't really have a great performance. Just the one shot he gets away, which is a decent effort, but from distance, really. And the fact he only tries 11 passes and only completes 6 of them, that is a surefire sign, really, of a forward who's struggling. Maybe the service could have been a lot better. Well, for a fact, we actually know it could have been a lot better. That's a big part of why Jota struggled. But I thought, you completing 6 out of 11 passes, you want to be the guy who, if Liverpool is struggling, the ball gets up there and you are keeping it. And Nunez has shown real improvement in that recently, and Gakpo was always sort of, he was big for that sort of type of play, because he was we said in the early part of his Liverpool career, he was sort of similar to Firmino in that way, but it just really didn't happen for him, really, in terms of making the ball stick today, and that added up to a poor performance, of which, of course, there were actually quite a few there. So I'll just quickly sum up with the subs there. Nunez, I thought, immediately when he came on, sort of showed what he was about. Showed that difference that he makes in terms of the threat in behind. He should have actually got Gabriel sent off for a second yellow. Very similar situation to the one that saw Canate sent off, in terms of Gabriel's all over Nunez when he thinks he's away in behind and wrestles him to the ground, and he's already on a yellow. I think it's very unfortunate, Gabriel's very fortunate that he doesn't get a yellow in that situation. That summed up the threat that Nunez brings to the team and brought when he came on here. One shot when he should have maybe crossed, but again, it's a desperate situation. Liverpool weren't getting into the box that often, and I don't blame him for having a go. And I just finish up with the other subs as well. Harvey Elliott and Robertson. The game was largely gone from about 8 minutes after they came on, and as a defender and as a midfielder, didn't have loads of opportunities to show anything. You know, Elliott completes a lot of passes, I think around 95%. He keeps trying to probe, but Arsenal have got a lead to defend, and it's so difficult coming into a game like that where the game has basically gone through an error, as I say, so late in the game. So difficult for him or Robertson really to make any changes from that point. Arsenal were just always going to hold on and defend that lead, and in the end they get one as well, another one on the break. So, you know, not a lot you can criticise them for. But just to sum up, really, I think I'm going to say, you know, it's just very much a bad day at the office for Liverpool, and one they need to quickly forget. You know, the things to look forward to, and hopefully Mohamed Salah is not too far away. Hopefully that Szoboszlai injury is not too bad, and we should hopefully be seeing Wataru Endo back in the squad soon as well, after Japan were knocked out of the Asia Cup. So maybe this is just one of those games where Liverpool have to just forget it, get themselves back on a winning run as soon as they can, and if they can do that, then they'll be straight back in title contention and hopefully holding on to the lead, because it's worth remembering this is still in Liverpool's hand. If they win every game between now and the end of the season, they will be Premier League champions. So, you know, not a decisive defeat by any means, but very much a disappointing one. There's no getting away from that. Now, just going to finish up by saying, you know, let me know in the comments who your man of the match was. Pretty slim pickings today, or, you know, where you think what things went wrong for Liverpool. Always interested to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, if you could like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't joined along yet, then that would be fantastic. And I'll see you guys very, very soon.